Welcome to Shaping Tomorrow, where I go behind the scenes with the people shaping Philly's future. With me today is Lou Kassa, who leads the Pennsylvania Biotechnology Center in Doylestown. PA Bio is one of the top life sciences incubators in the country and home to more than 100 companies doing groundbreaking work. It's always nice to see you, Lou. Welcome. And we feel like we're on a PABC Holy Family roll this last week or so. Um, you were just so profound. It was so important to have your voice and your message with our students at commencement. So I really appreciate that. And while our partnership has been in conversations for almost 2 years, I thought it was interesting that you and I were trying to figure out when did we first meet and how did we first meet, given we've been in constant conversations the last year and a half about your passion for what you're doing for PABC. And what has struck me from the beginning is you've always seen the role of PABC to have an educational component, which obviously has been the reason for us to think about having a partnership. So thanks. I just think, you're a real leader in the Bucks County, Philly area and a very important role in a really crowded field,
No,
right?
I want to thank you for the honor of, being able to speak at the commencement and with the honorary degree. And, as I told you that day, it was one of my unique Holy Family University experiences because I've never witnessed something like that. And the sense of community that you and your team have created there and the energy, and it just was a wonderful event. So you and your team have just done a really tremendous job creating this academic environment that, again, I said this to people before, having family in your name makes a lot of sense because that's the feeling I got on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. And always pretty incredible that we're founded by sisters who took a vow of poverty and not have families of their own,
Mhm.
right? But that this essential commitment to them is to support family and relationships. So yeah, it's a pretty cool mission for us to carry out for them. So in thinking about what might be helpful for us to talk about for our audience, I think we need to just start with the big picture, right? Talk to us a little bit about what is this whole conglomeration of PA Biotech Center, and you're growing it and your vision for why the partners, so one, the actual research partners, and then why did you always envision from the beginning that education was going to be an important part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to our founder, Dr. Timothy Block, who really was the rare entrepreneurial scientist who got, both sides of the equation and created these wonderful organizations that I'm fortunate enough to lead right now, which is, the Hepatitis B Foundation is the parent organization. It's about a lot of public policy advocacy. There's 300 million people with hepatitis B. There's no cure. The second organization is the Blumberg Institute. Barack Blumberg he discovered the hepatitis B virus at Fox Chase in Philadelphia, won the Nobel Prize, and were named after Dr. Blumberg. And he actually worked in Doylestown for several years before he passed. The Blumberg Institute as a research institute, which mainly focuses on hepatitis B and liver cancer, but we have branched out into other areas of research, manages the Pennsylvania Biotechnology Center, which has been around since 2006. A lot of people don't realize it's one of the oldest incubators, life sciences incubators in the country. We've had a tremendous amount of success, 9 IPOs, $3 billion worth of company value created. It's a unique model that focuses on science first. Since we are a research institute, we have great scientists that we can vet companies before they come in. We have 58 companies in Doylestown, and in our second incubator, we have close to 30 companies for that close to 100 number. And that incubator where I'm at today is called B Labs, which is a partnership with Brandywine Realty Trust, and that's here in University City. So it's a very unique model. I think that we, as a nonprofit, we put the companies first, and also part of our mission as a nonprofit is to educate tomorrow's workforce. So what's really fascinating with our model is that every day in Doylestown, and we have a program down here in Philadelphia, I'll mention, we have 40 students show up from the local high school, Central Bucks. They take advanced chemistry at 1:30 in the afternoon. every school day, and then they go and they work with our companies. And it's one of the best experiential learning programs, I believe, in the country. The kids are coming away with master's level bench experience, and the companies appreciate it because once the students are trained, they're getting high quality performance from high school students. We work with universities and colleges and internships. We have summer programming, and the relationship with Holy Family. What I'm very excited about is it gives us the potential maybe to do some high school work in the Innovation Center with Council Rock and surrounding school districts, but also with your students and your new masters in biotechnology. What a great fit for us to really, do our mission along with helping out your students with their academic programming.
So thank you. So, you know what I'm thinking of too? Why don't you explain when we say biotech, what is biotech? We throw that word around.
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of life sciences, which is a very, very broad definition, because a lot of people, when they think of life sciences and biotech, is a subset, really focusing on the biotechnology industry. A lot of people think of just small molecules and maybe cell and gene therapy, but there's so much other science, from radiopharmaceuticals to medical devices, diagnostics, vaccines, and it really, and even branching out into ag science and animal health, and now AI is a big part of science. So it's a broad definition that's really about scientific technologies. And in our role in the industry, we take early stage companies and we try to take their science project when they may come to us, and we turn it into a commercialization project. That's what we do well.
So along the way, two things I'm thinking about. We talked a little bit about this. What is your sense of how AI is going to be involved in this all, and maybe good and maybe not so good ways? So
I
that
mean,
one, and then what's the role of sort of our students, right? So when we think about a high school student, a college student, I do think it'd be helpful for us all to hear your thoughts about what is really needed in terms of preparation and education for some sort of any like careers, right? Because you're always saying to me, everybody doesn't have to have a PhD. So two
uh,
questions, right? It's sort of like thinking about it from an educational
sure.
right pathway. How can students think about moving into the field and right without first feeling like they need that PhD? And then I guess the other part is, and what is AI going to do to all of this?
I mean, well, I can start with AI. It's a term that I think gets used rather loosely today in today's society because it means so much. And when I'm looking at science and biotech, we're looking at ways to generate data faster. And where it may take us, if we didn't have AI, 6 months to look at a bunch of compounds, it may take us 6 minutes or 6 hours. So there is a part of that technology just accelerating that I think AI is going to have a huge role in. I think some of the areas that I'm seeing where it's a little gray with AI is, some people are trying to come up with platforms of, clinical trial AI. What's the success rate? What indication should you go for if you think you have a scientific discovery? Should you go for a certain type of cancer? And, so that's still kind of the Wild West. But from the data side of it, and from the student learning side, it is going to be part of science and biotech. I mean, it's literally merging. And we are right now, as we speak, making sure that we are making plans at both of our incubators to have potential data centers, to have the infrastructure so we can bring AI companies into our ecosystem. And then answering the second part of your question about students, I think you have to look at life sciences, biotech. This was explained to me once at JP Morgan. When you have a great scientific technology, that's half the equation. The other half is you need the business. It's the horse and the jockey. And you need that jockey to ride the horse, which is the science. And that relationship is really important for students who may want to get into the field. You need to know that, hey, I think I have a great idea. But on the business side, okay, if it's a great idea, is anyone else doing this? What's the market analysis? And if you see an opportunity there, what's your business plan? And having all of this, before you start the company, even what your exit strategy may be, is very important and I give that advice all the time to young entrepreneurs. You've got to be well versed on both sides, and you don't have to have a PhD or an MBA, but you need to have a very keen sense of, it's really about the market and really about where you want to go in that market and exit. So that would be my advice.
Wow, that's a lot, right? Because it really is in terms of trying to help students, because the way we tend to work in higher ed, right? They pick majors.
Yep.
So, sometimes I say we're almost enemy because students need to be interdisciplinary, which is sort of what you're getting at, right? So, being a science major and a business minor is not such a bad idea, actually, right? Or the other way around.
No, I agree. Or knowing and being aware that if you're on one side or the other, science or business, that you need that partner, and that's really important. And I think going back to my relationship with Dr. Block, I mean, he's very smart, business acumen, but I really brought in the business development and business side, and he had the science side down, and we really meshed well during our time together. He retired about 2 years ago, but that's a good example.
Yeah, and also, then you know what? Let's talk about that a minute because it's something that maybe happens less intentionally than it might, but this idea of thinking about your own skill sets and how does that help you kind of identify who you want to be partners with, or how do you want to, create a staff around you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a scientist. Matter of fact, it may be my worst subject in high school and college.
I
But
think a lot of people are going to surprised to hear that.
yeah, I may not have said that publicly, but I've said it privately a few times. But over the last 11 years, because I was in behavioral health prior to this, and I was a COO, and the COO skill set, chief operating officers, come up with a plan with others, implement it, monitor it, and change it if need be. So it's a skill set that transferred over into life sciences. But I realized right away I'm not going to have the level of expertise that the people in our institutions have. So I rely on them all the time. I can talk to a UCLA. I was just up at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories. I can do the business development, but then I need that scientist to come in and really close the deal. And I think back to your point about skill set, I talk about this all the time. You need to be aware of what you do well, what's in your bailiwick, and then hire people or bring people on your team that can help complement what you're doing. I always look at business is kind of like in baseball, they call it a five-tool player where you can run, hit, throw the ball. In business, there's leadership, there's HR, there's compliance, there's operations, there's finance, there's legal, and it's very rare that you're going to have all of those skills. You may have two or three, which means you could be a great leader, but you're going to have to find the right people to bring on your team for those other areas.
Yeah, amen. And being willing to know that about yourself, right? Enough self-reflection that you can get there. What's the take you have on where we're going with sort of the whole growth of biotech in this whole corridor of Philly and Bucks County?
I mean, we're blessed that we're part of the Pharma Belt, which runs from North New Jersey down to Philadelphia. So 80% of all US pharma is within 100 miles. So we've got that industry talent. And then on the academic side, I always say when you look at where we're located, we have, I think it's over 50 universities. I know it's over 88 universities and colleges within 50 miles, including Holy Family. And where I'm sitting here in University City and going up to, Lehigh and across over to New Jersey. So we have the academics, we have the industry, we combine them. So we're very, very lucky this region. Unfortunately, and I know a lot of others, in all industries are feeling the impact of some of the federal instability at this time. And that's kind of affected some of the investment strategies in our world, from venture capital to other NIH funding and CDC and DoD. So we're navigating what's going on right now. There's a tremendous opportunity for Pennsylvania in the future because I think our governor is going to make a investment. I think that's going to then attract the VC. And when the federal government issues kind of settle down, I think there's going to be opportunities for our incubators to work with the universities to take their technologies and, again, like as I said earlier, help make them commercialization projects. So, I'm looking forward and I'm being as optimistic as I can right now.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited and also thinking about business entrepreneurship. We don't tend to think about that's the other track. We got plenty of business majors that would maybe want to learn that side of the business as well.
100%. And again, with your master's in biotechnology, and again, looking at not just the science side, the business side, I think that's probably the best thing you can offer somebody who wants to get into this field is something of that level where you experience the science and the business.
Yeah. Well, this network of eds and meds is pretty strong in our town, huh?
Yeah.
So we want to definitely be players in it. May I ask one last question? I kind of always like to do this since I'm in higher ed and I'm always curious. As much as we'd like to think we may have some influence over either where our own children go to school or influencing others to where they may want to choose to attend school. Where'd you go to school and why?
Yeah, so I grew up in a town called Quakertown, and it almost fits the name up in Upper Bucks County. It's a very small rural farming community, and I was kind of a big fish in a small pond there. Did very well, and I actually started at Temple University. That's not in my bio, and I went there for a year. And I didn't have the best experience. My family's from Philadelphia. I've been around the city my whole life. I went to visit a friend of mine at Penn State, and I saw it was totally different from what I was used to. And it was literally a whole town built around a university. And I said, I really think that experience at that point in my life, I would benefit from. And now when I look back on it, socially, I really learned, it opened up a lot of doors to a lot of experiences that I may not have been able to get if I stayed home or if I went to Temple is a great school. My daughters have gone there, but for my time of my life, going to Penn State really changed my life and made me much more, I would say, well-rounded with all the folks that are up there.
Well, and that's so important. And that's the other reason I'll always tell young people and their parents, it's okay if the first one's not the right fit. Don't abandon education. It's about the fit. That's why there's lots of different schools, big schools, small schools, faith-based, secular, private, public, right? Because everyone's got to find a place where they feel like they can flourish, and it's not going to be the same, thankfully, right? That's why we have lots of different kinds of schools. So it's always interesting to think about, one is what made the first choice, right? How were you thinking about that? That maybe wasn't a good way of thinking about it, and who influences those decisions,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's true. And again, I was commuting to Temple, so that's an important fact. I wasn't actually living on campus. So by going away and living on campus, you learn how to do things, like I said, socially, your laundry, how to, get a food meal card, all those things. So yeah, you grow up real fast.
Yeah, you do. And are you a first gen or your parents
I,
had?
I am, I am first gen. Yes, I am.
Right. And then I always say that's another factor because it's not just that you come from a family that doesn't have an educational college education experience, but the likelihood is most of your surroundings, right? That the social economic place you were didn't have a lot of college graduates. So there's not that there wasn't even sort of the go-to people that are your, sort of elders in community that can guide you. So when we talk about social capital and social networks,
Mhm.
that's part of being first gen. It's not just your family, it's probably your whole community is a first gen community. And so you don't have the natural sort of voices giving you ideas about where to go. And so, it's hard sometimes when you're 17 to figure out what do you really need. So a lot of times we don't get it right the first time, right?
No, you're right. And again, in Quakertown, great town growing up, but there was like two tracks and then there's again, nothing wrong with it. There's a big technical school and then a lot of students went to Kutztown. That's fine. But there wasn't a whole lot of options as you referenced because of and again, it's funny, my master's, my thesis was on social capital. So,
Oh, there you go.
yeah, you're speaking close to my heart on how I could probably, when I finished that up in 2007, the internet was already, what, maybe 10 years. If I went back and revisited, it's probably much more dire than it was back in 2007. The lack of that community feeling and going out and being, talking to your neighbors and going into the community. So yeah, that is near and dear to my heart.
Well, we are certainly going to continue to work on building community, that's for sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for spending some time with me again this week. I really appreciate it, and obviously look forward to a lot more discussions and work together. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. I had a great time talking with you today.